I take this moment to thank all our sponsors. I take this moment to thank all our sponsors. You could see all our sponsors' logos on the slide up. Roman Innovate, Integrate, Empower, Mind Matrix, Prescience, Google Cloud, Antenna Ventures, RecycleCaro.com, Kent. So thank you everyone for sponsoring events like these. It's always a pleasure to have sponsors. Perfect, perfect. So, everyone, just most of you would be knowing what's MITI. MITI is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It was set up to promote information tech and other innovative ideas. Before our guest, Shri Abhishek Singh ji joins, I would request Alok sir to, talk some bit or share some idea about the kind of things India AI mission has been doing in case you, or anything where you want to add, or before our guest, Shri Abhishek Singh ji joins on ways on which the startups or the entrepreneurs or those who are looking for funding could be, benefited. Yeah. Anything where you would like to throw some more light so that our audience is enlightened?
I think important thing is this India AI mission, like many other missions that are there. And talking about MITI, I actually chair the Agri-Annex program, the Agri-Tech in MITI, Pan-India, and we have in 15 institutes. CDAC Kolkata is the prime, and in fact Monday we are having a meeting in MITI to take those forwards. But so vertical wise, MITI has been funding quite a lot, but then there are few big missions, as you all know, in terms of quantum mission, in terms of semiconductor mission, in terms of AI mission that is more recently starting up. Earlier, when Ashutosh ji was DST secretary, he started cyber physical systems, which is very dear to my heart, and my company is also working. And we have in many of the IITs a center. This is not a center, it's a non-profit organization, Section 8 companies, which is doing on cyber physical systems, some on robotic side, some on blockchain, communications, everywhere the applications are there. And they have progressed significantly in last 5 years. Now this whole mission is also trying to see all these established centers, National AI Mission, how can we leverage? Because all are interconnected and our technologies are intertwined, and so they have progressed to apply. And as I see, AI has got multiple flavor. One, definitely foundational model that we talk about, and when you say foundational model, does not mean only English, it can be another language, or from the very basic text that we have moved into audio, we have moved into image, video. You see various forms, the Ghibli things that was taken. Now, there are questions that are emerging also as you do in terms of who is the owner of these. Are we paying the artists that are there? So these are interesting questions. So that's going to be part of this journey, but at the same time, along with these foundational models, we are making sure that the applications happens. We'll talk more since Abhishek ji is already online, so let's get into that session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for setting that up. And yes, Shri Abhishek Sarji is online. Welcome, sir.
I have joined. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. So a very warm welcome to Sri Abhishek Singh Ji, who is the Additional Secretary, MITI, CEO, India AI Mission. We would have his keynote address for all our audiences here. Welcome, sir, and the stage is all yours.
Hello.
I can hear you, but there is echo. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you loud and clear.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are very much audible.
Am I audible?
Somebody from...
Okay. Okay, so I was thinking there will be somebody who will be interacting with me, but I guess they are setting up a mic. So do you need me to wait?
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
This is
There's some echo there. I think a couple of people have joined in the same place with the same link. So if others can be muted, then it will work well.
Yes, can you hear me now? Should be clearer.
He can't hear.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but there's an echo.
You can use.
Hello.
Yes.
But
You
he's
can join from the laptop. आप laptop से दे दो ना laptop से.
I think there seems to be some tech glitches.
We are just trying to fix this technical glitch, you know. Howsoever tech savvy become that. Okay. So, sir, I would request you to start by the time we are fixing the echo. So, our audience is looking forward to hear from you.
we can hear you
Okay,
clearly.
okay.
So
Got it.
Yes.
Then I will just go ahead and give my monologue, and then we can see how we go forward.
Thank
Okay.
you. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Is there an echo? I think it's clearer, right?
Yeah, I sorted.
Okay,
Perfect.
great. Thank you, and very warm welcome. I think we would love to hear from you your opening remarks, and then we can take up some questions and discussions. But let's
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It's been, I was looking forward to, in fact, coming over to Bangalore, interacting with all the friends and in person, but unfortunately scheduled. In fact, I have a major event which is about to start in an hour, in which we are going to make some major announcements, especially with regard to the scheme for the component ecosystem. There's a lot of noise, background noise. So I have an event which is going to start in 35 minutes. Okay. So now I think there is a better setup. Now I can see the stage and all. So anyway, what I would, since the time is short, I will just, I hope I'm audible, and I'll just say what I have to say. So I will just focus on the key initiatives especially with regard. There's so much of noise in the background. I don't know whether. Yeah. So I was just saying that it would have been a nice for me to travel down and interacting with so that we could have avoided these technical glitches and also got a chance to interact with you all and get to learn about the great work that many of you are doing. But unfortunately, I was requesting my Sujit and other friends who had invited me that maybe we could keep at some other date, but I think the date was scheduled. So what I will focus on is certain key initiatives. I'm sure you must have heard about India AI mission and how India is trying to take steps to establish a place under the AI ecosystem. It is true that we are much behind where US and China is, but this is a field in which we strongly believe that India can play a big role. The key reasons for believing this is we have a very strong talent base, especially in the field of technology, the field of artificial intelligence, and India has for long regarded to be the technology service provider for the whole world. Our companies have been running the Bangalore-based companies, in fact, have been running the tech systems, the finance of major banks, transportation systems, municipal systems across the world. And our companies have been the leading companies, whether it's TCS, whether it's Infosys, whether it's Wipro, whether it's Tech Mahindra, and many more companies who have been right from Y2K to now. We have seen that effect that have. In fact, most of the global majors also if you look at the big tech firms, they have a significant number of people of Indian origin who are working in these companies. There's a lot of people at senior positions. Some of them are leading the big tech companies. Also, we are very familiar with the Google, Microsoft, Adobe, and many other companies. So we do have a very strong talent base when it comes to doing this. Domestically, what we have done, especially in the government, is that we've used technology in a big way for improving governance. So we have implemented large population scale projects, whether it's Aadhaar or UPI or DigiLocker or eSanjeevani, Diksha. We do not have a parallel anywhere in the world with regard to implementing at such a big scale. Even during COVID, the COVID platform that was built, it was one of the reasons which helped us fight COVID. Otherwise, with a manual-based system, it would have been virtually impossible to vaccinate 1 billion plus people. So we do believe that given the strength that we have in technology, given the strength that we have in using technology for enabling public services, we should ideally be positioned well to take the leadership in the AI space also. In fact, even if you look at, say, the Stanford AI Index 2025, it puts India as the top country when it comes to AI skill penetration. If you look at the number of AI projects contributed in the GitHub repository, we contribute to the second highest number of projects. There are almost 20% of GitHub projects come from Indians. So we did a kind of study with regard to, but that why is it that China and the US are much ahead in the AI race? And we observed that there are certain gaps in our AI story, primarily being access to compute, access to data sets, access to funding for research, access to funding startups. And based on that, we constituted several working groups. We did a lot of interactions with all stakeholders. We interacted with startups, interacted with industries, researchers, academia, experts, civil society. And based on that, the India AI mission was conceptualized. It was approved by the Union Cabinet last year on 7th of March with an outlay of 10,372 crores. And it was primarily designed to be implemented across 7 verticals. The 7 verticals included AI compute, wherein it was felt that we need to provide a minimum of 10,000 GPUs, which can help the developers and researchers to train models to build applications. So what we have done so far in the last 1 year is that we have empaneled 10 service providers, and we have today 14,000 plus GPUs available, and at a cost which is much lower than the market price. The cost that we negotiated through a tender, and government is providing 40% support to that cost. So it comes to around 67 rupees per GPU per hour. So that's the cost at which GPUs are available for all those who are training models, who are building applications. Then and this is like a running contract. Like there are more bids which are expected on 30th of April. And I believe that another 10,000 GPUs will be added to the kitty that is available for building that. The second key initiative is about providing data sets for training AI models. For that, we have built and launched a portal called Kosh, which is providing access to data sets, to tools and models at one place. The AIcoach.gov.in has got more than 350 data sets today available from both government and private sector. It has got tools available, it has got models available, and work is ongoing to provide access to compute also through the same platform, and also a sandbox environment, plus building a community of developers so that people can collaborate and train and build AI models and applications. The third key pillar is about building a foundation model, because very often it is said that China has built DeepSeek, US is the leader in models, whether it's Llama or whether it's in GPT, whether it's Claude, Grok, Gemini. So US has a lot of companies who have trained models. India has been like behind in this. So we are providing funding support to startups who will be training models. For this, we had a call for proposals for building Indian foundation models, Indian LLMs and SLMs, and we got a very enthusiastic response. And the first group of companies who will be funded under this initiative is going to be announced today at 12 o'clock. After this event, I have to rush for that, in which our Honorable Minister will be making the announcement. We have gone through the evaluations, and this is the first company will be announced today, and many more will follow in the days to come. So that's about the foundational model. Then another key pillar under the India AI mission is about application development, because ultimately citizens have to benefit. We need to use AI, we need to use these applications to build applications in healthcare, in agriculture, in education, in manufacturing, in logistics, in every sector, financial sector. So we for this we had an application innovation challenge in which we published 14 problem statements across 5 themes. The themes included climate change, agriculture, healthcare, governance, learning disabilities. And we got 900 proposals for these 14 problem statements, and out of which around 30 have been identified in the prototype stage. They have been given an initial grant of 25 lakhs each, and now we are providing support to them to work with the concerned ministries so that these solutions can be scaled up. So, for example, if there is an AI application for diagnosing tuberculosis or diabetic retinopathy or cataract or helping farmers, then these models, these applications will be shared with the health ministry, and they will then kind of adopt it and deploy it. So all hospitals which may have X-ray machines but may not have qualified radiologists can use this tool to diagnose tuberculosis and other diseases. So that's the approach that has been taken for developing applications. We've also conducted several hackathons in which we have given problem statements, and startups and entrepreneurs have built solutions for that. One current hackathon is currently also on, in which for Ministry of Mines and Geological Survey of India, we are asking for AI applications which can help discovering minerals based on geological data and other data sets that are being provided. The fifth pillar is also about, of course, about skilling. So we do believe that though we have a skilling advantage, but in order to retain this advantage, we need to constantly provide support and incentives for people to take up research in the field of AI. So under this initiative, we are providing fellowships to BTech students, to master students, to MTech students, and also to PhD scholars. And one of the students, in fact, I would like to mention is that who is providing fellowship, a BTech student working on a final year project. His paper has been selected for one of the top AI conferences, the National Conference on Computational Linguistics, is going to be held in New Mexico next week. And this fellow will be presenting his paper. So the idea is that when we provide support to students taking research, then we can ultimately will come out with products which can compete with the market. Then under the skilling piece, we are also training youth in the tier 2 tier cities in ITIs and polytechnics by setting up data labs so that they can become data scientists, data analysts, data annotators, because these are the jobs that will be coming up in the data economy that we are building. The sixth pillar is about startup financing, under which we are there's a provision for providing funding support to startups working in the field of AI. There's funding is available at all stages: pre-seed, seed, and also through a fund of funds for mature startups, in which we will be co-investing in the startup. We work with accelerators and incubators toward this objective. We also have plans to give them exposure to international markets. In fact, 10 startups have been chosen through a call for applications, and they are going to undergo an accelerator program at Station F in Paris, in France. This is an outcome of our Prime Minister's visit to Paris in February, wherein we signed an MOU with them, wherein the startups will get to undergo a 4-month program there, in which they will get access to VCs, they will get access to markets, they will be able to showcase their products, plus get mentoring support from Station F and HEC Paris. Then the last but not the least pillar is about safe and trusted AI. because we do believe that whenever we talk of AI applications and models, the issues of responsibility, the issues of ethics, the issues of safe, the issue of building trustworthy applications comes in. So towards this objective, we have been like working toward developing tools for safe and trusted AI. So like getting a tool developed for AI for bias mitigation, or certifying AI applications, or for machine learning, or for synthetic data generation, or for privacy preservation tools, or for detecting deep fakes, or watermarking AI generated content. So these tools are currently being developed in partnership with academic institutions and startups. And we hope that the first set of tools will be available in the next 3 to 6 months. And these tools will also be available on the AI coach platform so that all users in India could use it. The other issue is about developing guidelines for AI regulation. On that, our approach has been pro innovation, ensuring that we allow innovation to prosper and only restrict the harmful use of AI. And by this, we mean that wherever any user harm is caused. So, for example, if deep fakes or misinformation is resulting in any communal violence or resulting in any disruption of democratic processes, those are the use cases, those are the applications that will be regulated. And we do believe that the current legal scenario, whether it's the provisions under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or the provisions under the IT Act or the intermediary guidelines rules, are currently sufficient to address the challenges that we have presently. We do not foreclose the need for having a separate AI law in due course, but at this stage, we do believe that the existing regulations are sufficient and we will be able to manage with the existing laws. We had also set up a subcommittee under the principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister for coming up with AI governance guidelines. These guidelines are published for public consultations. We have got very encouraging feedback from stakeholders, and we do hope to finalize these guidelines very soon. Overall, this is about the India AI mission, and I will just conclude by mentioning that India is trying to play a big role in the development of global principles for regulating AI also. Our India co-chaired the AI summit Action Summit at Paris in February. Our Prime Minister and President Macron addressed the summit, and the next summit will be held in India in February of next year. And by that time, we hope to have developed several AI applications and showcase to the world, and present what we can do, what India can do in the field of AI. So I call upon all of you who are present here, who might be working in IT companies, or who might be working for the startups or entrepreneurs or VC funds, to look at how we can further add to what AI mission is doing. Please feel free to reach out. Please feel free to give your suggestions, and we'll be happy to interact in person whenever I'm in Bangalore next. So thank you for this time.
Thank you very much. Can we have some 2-3 quick questions, Abhishek ji?
Yes, okay,
Okay.
2-3 questions.
So I think you very well articulated the contest that is there on the foundational model, and we are eagerly looking forward to the 12 o'clock announcements, what the first set of people that would be coming. You also highlighted about a lot of applied fields in which the work is going. Here we have 200 plus startups that have registered in this today's event. And you mentioned about data sets happening, the course, the computer infrastructure, the talent being there. So my question to you would be, for these communities, anything based on the review of the first lot, that you have a guidelines or a kind of, what you are looking forward from the country's standpoint, what they should be doing more or doing right to get to the next step, either in terms of leveraging or in terms of contributing?
Yeah. I missed out the last part.
I was just saying that what this community, those who are attending here, the startups, how could they leverage more that what this mission is offering, or in terms of contributing based on the feedback that you have reviewed many submissions, right? Anything that's going right, wrong, in a summary form, can you give them a guidelines or some message?
Yeah, there are so many things. Like, for example, the startups who are working on AI applications, they can access the compute. And if they're building a model, if they're building applications, use cases which are for public use, then they can get access to subsidized compute. Now, that is one. Number two, they can take part in innovation challenges wherein problem statements are given or hackathons that are currently ongoing or will be announced and propose solutions for that. Number three, the foundational models. If anybody is interested, though we have got more than 400 proposals for foundation models, and now it's a challenge for me and my team to get to evaluate them. But the due date is.
It's
Yeah.
a big challenge in hand.
Yes, but due date is 30th of April. So if anyone else is thinking that they do have a team or capability or desire or resources to build up a foundation model and needs government support, 30th April is the due date. Still a few more days to go, so you can participate in there. In addition, for the tools which are there on AI Kosh. On AI Kosh also we called upon even private sector companies and startups to contribute data sets. Some private sector companies or startups are already doing so. So if anyone else is wanting to use or contribute to the data sets, please explore aicosh.gov.in and give your feedback. In case you are looking at data sets which are not available, you can raise a request, raise a demand also there. And we are in constant discussions with the stakeholders, especially the government departments, to share the data sets in an AI usable format. So there is a lot of back and forth that happens with startup community. We are in touch with the VCs also who are investing, who are co-investing in startups. So in fact, the whole AI mission, we do believe that government is just like an incubator. The actual work will be done by the entrepreneurs, by the researchers, by academicians. ISC Bangalore is doing a great work. There are Bangalore-based companies who are partnering with us. In NASSCOM, we have a COE for AI that we have set up along with NASSCOM in Bangalore. So the Bangalore ecosystem is very, very involved with that. The Bhashini project, under which we have built a lot of language tools. That is also we work very closely with the companies in Bangalore and also with IIT Madras for AI for Bharat initiative that is there. IIT Kanpur has been a great partner in many of our initiatives, especially cyber security. So the three COEs that higher education is establishing, the COE in healthcare at AIIMS and IIT Delhi, COE in agriculture at IIT Ropar, and the COE in smart mobility urban management at IIT Kanpur. So these are all a lot of initiatives which we are working with the IITs and also the startup community. So happy to get in touch. My email I put in the chat. And in case anybody wants to reach out separately, happy to connect and brainstorm.
Thank you very much. But one more thing which you didn't cover, but it's a very news of this times is you touched upon BTech, MTech, ITI, and the skills that we have, and further growing it. But we see in China, at the age of 6, the AI curriculum is getting introduced, and yesterday it looks like US is also talking about young age AI introduction. What is your view on that, and how are we going to be equipping, if at all, on the young set of people, which is 10th standard and below?
No, in fact, this has been very much a part of the objectives and introducing AI in the curriculum at school stage. Ministry of Department of School Education is working on it. And in fact, AI as a subject was introduced a couple of years back, in fact, just after COVID in 2021 in class 10th and class 12th level. So students who are studying in school, they can take artificial intelligence as a separate subject rather than just computer applications or science or maths, similar to that AI recognized as a subject. And then we are also working with the school education and NCERT to include chapters on AI and on cyber security in class 6th, 7th also, because just like the students study about planets and plants and about laws of motion in school, similarly a chapter on what AI is becomes very, very important. In addition, we have a program called Yuva AI, in which we give basic lessons in AI to school students. And last year, in fact, we ran a program under which 50,000 students went through an AI 101 course, and this was for government schools. And then we provided them mentorship with industry partners, and then they were asked to submit AI ideas that they will want to build for using AI. We got around 11,000 such proposals, and then they went through a training. We did boot camps, we provided them support, and then they were asked to build those models. And the top 20 solutions, and this built by government students, were presented to the Honorable Prime Minister. And one of the students, in fact, I would like to mention about this girl in class ninth from Lalitpur in a government primary school, government high school in Lalitpur, Uttar Pradesh. She had built up a AI model which would advise her father with regard to what crop he should be sowing, and that model was basically relying on crop history, on soil health, on weather data, and based on that it was predicting the best crop which can give maximum yield to the farmer. So these solutions, especially in school students and government school students, start thinking of it. We realize that we do have a potential, we do have a lot of potential. If we provide them right support through their college education and beyond, they will be able to ultimately come out with something that will help us compete with China and the US.
Thank you very much. Just the last question to close the session. You talked about many institutes working well, and IIC and some of the startups here, and similarly many other cities that is going well. We have today a good number of GCCs that are present who have this AI talent for their project global outcome that they are delivering. Is there any message, and how is government facilitating this collaboration between research institute startups, but also industries, particularly the MNCs, GCCs, to accelerate AI and deep tech innovation?
Yes, we do work with a lot of industry, and GCCs have been a welcome investment that we have seen. And like, for example, TCS launched a sovereign cloud yesterday. The companies like Infosys is also participating in our proposal for building foundation models. Zoho has been one of the Indian companies which have been working with the government. They have provided the email services, and we are working with them to provide more applications in the field of AI and all. So we do believe that there is a lot of potential in Indian talent and Indian companies, and with them, especially with the GCC move coming in, and even the big tech, the companies like Microsoft and Satya Nadella was here. He announced a $3 billion investment in data centers and all. NVIDIA, when Jensen was here, he and Jio, they announced a $1 billion, 1 gigawatt data center with Blackwells. Then similarly, IBM has been putting in a lot of investment into it. Google has been trying to invest. Meta has been investing. So we do feel that with the support that is there, the policy support, and through AI mission and otherwise, there's a lot of interest in India's deep tech ecosystem. Even manufacturing, we are seeing fab announcements coming in. We are becoming one of the largest manufacturers of electronics phones. So with this entire partnership with industry, with academia, with startups, we do believe that we are poised to a situation wherein digital will contribute a major portion, at least 20% to our Indian economy, and it will create jobs, and it will create a place for strength for India in the overall global economy.
So thank you on behalf of this IITK Alumni Association, SMC. We appreciate your time here and illuminating on this AI mission. So thank you again, and all the best, and we hope to hear good news at 12 once you announce. Thank you again.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Shri Abhishek Singh talking on the side, the government, the policies, the vision that the Ministry, India AI Mission has to promote and bring forward the startup ecosystem. Thank you all. Moving next, we would have a round of panel discussion where we would be talking about GCCs and age of AI, outsourcing to innovation in the age of AI. For this, I would love to call upon our next set of panelists and our moderator on the stage. Yes, please. I would love to call upon stage our moderators Sunil Gupta ji, Harsh Khanna, Sunil Kumar, Rajesh Kumar Ojha, Rajiv Parasar sir. All of you, please come on the dais. We are eagerly awaiting to welcome you. Sunil Gupta, he would be moderating the panel. He's the Senior Director from Cognizant. Harsh Khanna is Executive Director, Product Manager, Wells Fargo. Please come on the desk, sir. Sunil Kumar, he's AI Head, Merckx. Rajesh Kumar Ojha, Partner, PwC. Rajesh Parashar, founder and CEO, Tricon. Most welcome, every one of you. Please take a seat. Yes, please take a seat. And the next panel, the panel that you could see in front of you, they would be talking about GCC's Age of AI, Outsourcing to Innovation, the Age of AI. And this panel would be moderated by Sunil Gupta. Sunil Gupta, also known as SKG, is a vibrant lifestyle step-up coach and a seasoned expert with over 3 decades in business strategy, program management, and corporate real estate. An IIT Kanpur alumni, Sunil has enhanced his credential with leadership programs. At present, Sunil is based in Philippines. He volunteers as a mentor with Unicorn Incubator IIT startups. Sunil's personal advocacy is guiding first-generation graduate girl student whom he fondly calls as Biryani Girls. So over to you, Sunil. The panel is all yours. I would love to hear more from the panelists. You can take it forward from here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being in the hall. We had some time challenges, and we have an hour or so to spend with you. So, in case you are feeling that time has moved beyond what it was, I'll request you to still be patient with us. We have nearly 100 years of experience in the panel here, and we have interesting set of people. We have 2 leaders who are running GCCs. We have one of them from consulting side, and we have one who has scaled his venture as a company over the decades. So I'll first introduce my panelist, which is there with me. So just bear with me. I'll refer to the notes, and I'll start from my left side. Harsh is there with nearly 3 decades of experience in IT expertise, big data, microservices, Kubernetes, and data science. His special focus is an offshore development center, establishing and scaling excellence hubs globally. And some fun fact about him: he loves running, tracking, and he teaches college students voluntarily. Thank you, Harsh. Next, we have Rajiv Parashar. He's actually my college batchmate. We are from the same batch, IIT Kanpur 1992 alumni. He has founded Tricon in 1997. Today, it's a 500 strong company, and LinkedIn recognized recently this as one of the top 15 companies in India to work with. Rajiva's focus is software product development and innovation driven culture. He was president of IIT Khana Club, and he's passionate bridge player and a golf enthusiast. Thank you, Rajiva. Then we have Rajesh with us. Rajesh is a partner with PwC, and he leads the PwC's GCC market strategy and a senior advisor to a lot of GCC clients, obviously, in that role. And Rajesh has been, mentoring a lot of senior leaders in various GCCs. That's one of the passion projects. Yeah. And next, I'll go to Dr. Sunil. Dr. Sunil is from Merck. He heads the AI at Merck, and he's a senior executive director with data science and AI expertise is his background. His special focus is on logistics, and Merck Star Innovator as a title you are holding. Thank you very much for being there. One very interesting fun fact about him is that he likes to talk about intersection of paranormal phenomena and mathematics. So you might be imagining that he's there, but he's there. Okay. With that, as panel you saw is a very interesting mix, and the topic is also very relevant. There's a lot of talk about GCCs in the recent months in general. And there was a NASSCOM GCC summit which just got concluded a couple of days back in Hyderabad. But GCC... Yeah. Okay, fine, yeah. So Harsh doesn't have to move, Sunil comes there, Rajesh, yeah, Rajiv, yeah. Okay, thank you for that suggestion. Yeah. So, what we'll do in this time of what we have is first we'll learn a bit about GCCs as a unit, how they grow. So those who are running it with their experience. Then we'll see from Rajiva's experience of running a company, what is his view from as an outsider to this ecosystem which is evolving. And then we'll talk a bit more about how startups can converge and co-create with GCCs. We heard earlier that there was an example of Samsung having an accelerator and venture forum. Are there other opportunities other companies also have? We'll see what are the challenges and if there is any change needed in the outlook. So let me start with very first question for all our panelists, and we can go in this order. How do you see GCCs triggering change in the startup ecosystem? I mean, from your personal experience so far, do you see that there is something which has happened, like in manufacturing, when a big company comes, it creates a supply chain network as a ripple effect. With GCCs coming in, with the talent it has over the years, organically built, some of them might be going out and starting something, or there might be other companies which might be already providing you some technical services. And your personal experiences you could share as a industry leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think first of all, there's a lot of leaders here in the audience. I've met Sanket from Salesforce, so whatever we say, right, I mean, take it with a grain of salt based on our experience. Yeah, I think, Dr. Alok was here earlier. I was listening to him. It's interesting. He said 1600 GCC. That's the approximate number that he quoted. So 1700 GCC, and I think, if you look at the analysis of GCCs, right, what I think, like currently they say you are in wave 3. Wave 1 was, there was a wave, cost cutting, people came here, they got some people. Wave 2, they said, okay, you are a satellite office. Mysore is satellite to Bangalore, so you got some people there. Wave 3 seems to be this, where you are building your portfolio as a hub, right? So, if I'm doing something in trading, I've got my trading portfolio here, and, part of that sits here in Bangalore, right? And that this wave, this third wave is that portfolio hub, right? And from here to the next 10 years, right, where they become like capability centers, they are counting on you as not just a portfolio, but arm to arm, you become their colleagues working with them. So from 30 billion to 110 billion, I think that's basically the change that's happening. 1.2, 1.3 million engineers, employed, and Sunil, you're working with Cognizant, so I'm sure you understand the, numbers game that happens there. I think that's the ripple effect overall, from a big picture that I would want to see. From a startup perspective, I think there's a number of areas where I think, like, it should have impact, right? Like, I think the first thing I think is, if you see like interns, right? A lot of companies these days will want to have interns. And by the way, my views are my own; they don't reflect my employers. So that disclaimer is clear. The thing is, like, right, nobody as a, if you go out on the ground level, most managers working for GCCs will not look at interns as something that's, like a prize thing, right? Because they have to train them, then the intern goes away, whether he'll accept the job offer, come back or not, nobody knows that. I think that's an area, a sweet niche where startups can play, because you're training them. And then, but yeah, are you playing with the product at that point? Are you just playing with sort of, where you're body shopping? That needs to be refined, but I think there's a big gap there, especially with AI coming in, training them. Maybe it's through universities that happen, not through startups, but that's one area. And I think there's, other places as well. I let these guys do their talk. That's what thank you.
Sure, thank you. That was a very interesting question. So where I think GCCs are collaborating with startups today and helping them thrive is bringing in that domain knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So because GCCs now are part of the entire organization itself. So we get deeper into what are the real problems that startups could really solve, right? I can get more tactical and give you a couple of examples. In my personal opinion, building another LLM, which is 100 billion parameters, may not add more value. Specifically coming from a logistics industry, what LLM will add value is having that granular knowledge of who is that powerful freight forwarder in Bangalore, who is that freight forwarder in Hyderabad, who is that freight forwarder in a remote village or serving that remote village in India. right? So this kind of data is not available today, right? So the meat is actually in collecting this data and enabling that LLM that particularly caters to this industry, right? From an external perspective, if I were to go and do a startup, this problem may not be really apparent, right? So where GCCs come into play is to see that, okay, this is my precise problem statement. And as a GCC, I don't have the capability to go and actually collect this data from the market. But as a startup, if you're willing to sponsor into this particular problem, go ahead and it's all yours. And it's not just Maersk that will use your data, but the entire logistic suite of companies will get into using this LLM, right? Similarly, if you take cars industry today, Tesla, for example, can get the real miles data because they're running the car. Every bit of data has been recorded by the sensors. Think of a domain-specific, Tesla-specific, electric car-specific, self-running car-specific LLM out there, and sky's the limit for use cases, right? So I do not think having, I just heard Dr. Abhishek speaking about there are applications for 400 LLMs to be built, right? I don't know if they are very domain-specific LLMs that are being asked to be built, or this is a general, yet another LLM, right? I don't think the power is in yet another LLM. There's just good enough stuff out there. I'll also touch base on one other interesting problem that I'm seeing, which could also be a seeding for some of the startup founders that are looking for interesting problems, right? So Maersk is a 100,000 people company, and we've been in the market for 140 years, and we're the largest shipping company in the world, and we're now getting into logistics and stuff. Even before these LLMs and AI have come into picture and actively being used in logistics, the processes are people driven. There is a back office which used to solve problems in a certain way. Now the expectation is AI comes and it does some voodoo, and then it changes or it kind of does what people used to do for years. Unfortunately, there is no log of how people solve issues, but the expectation is, okay, Gen AI out there can now imagine something and create the process by itself. Unfortunately, that's the opinion, right? This is process discovery without the logs being there. So this is a real problem for most of the companies, right? Today, with a browser use kind of a capability, which also can execute actions using the LLM kind of a knowledge, how to solve the issue, what is the process to be followed in a GCC is unknown element. We don't have a book called, okay, this is the standard operating procedure that I can feed it into a LLM for it to come up with solution on how to execute things. This could be one area, right? One startup could come and then say, okay, I am just going to document all the processes for Maersk. Or for a Kuni Nagel, I sit down and just document these processes, and I'm going to feed it to an LLM. That now becomes a very specific Maersk-centered LLM, which could be leveraged for tons of purposes. So, if you look at the opportunity here, it is as good as the number of companies, right? Everybody requires one SOP building startup. So it's a ripe opportunity. Yeah, thank you. We'll stop there. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I just heard very great views. Maybe I'll just add it little in a different, charter, because since we're talking about GCs, and I'll more talk on the business side than the tech side. Personally, I'm not a tech guy. I used to be a design engineer from aerospace side till I would say 2007, 2008, where I spent some time in ADA, initially be part of the prototype version 1 of a light combat aircraft on the digital mock-up. So I would say more of a CAD engineer than anything else. But I would say in last 15, 20 years, what I have seen, I'll just try to relate to that, because especially startups always react to a phenomena, right? That's what the phenomena going on. So today's phenomena we are talking is GCC. And if you look at GCCs, the whole, from end to end perspective. So when you say GCC is coming into India, which is basically GCC setting up, Now, when you look at GCC setting up, what are they looking for? Because they are looking for a right business case. Then they are looking at right place, right candidacy. So there are startups today, at least I have met 15 of them, right, in recent past, who have created solutions for individual boxes. That, how do I identify which area that I need to bring in first? There are consultants like us who always are doing this job more as an end-to-end. But then when you look around, and there are startups which are just saying that, Rajesh, this is the solution I have created, which you can take it to your client saying that this is how you can identify certain candidates, which you should be bringing it as a GCC first. Second, when you look at location, now we know a lot of companies have put location strategy, location analysis, etc. as one area. Again, you will find startups actually who have gone ahead, done a whole GIS mapping. And if you ask them that which building, which floor of the building is available, whether it is warm, not warm, shell, etc., they will actually give you in seconds. They will just run in front of you and give you that view, that which Bagmane Constellation Park floor number, cell number. They will just real time tell you that this is what it is. And I have seen this in practice. So this is again a startup. When you go next stage, where you are talking about now you have set it up and now you're thinking about expansion. Now you need to do hiring people, leadership, where the talent lies. So when you look at it today, we are always looking at main cities, obviously, right? But look beyond that. Now there is a lot of private universities have come in. Most of the universities have created their own curriculums, and some of them fundamentally great, forward-looking to cover the AI and Gen AI and other things as well. So there are very clear data points that they will give you, that which college, which university, which place you should be going to, where the skill is available and where skill is getting prepared. It's not just the IITs that they look at everything beyond that. And there are a lot of private, the certificate providers, they are giving that data point saying that, Rajesh, if you are looking at next generation, a skill like actuarial, where are you going to get from? Right? If you are looking at from a supply chain perspective today, and this is where when you look at the whole cycle, and now earlier we were just looking at as a, Dr. Harsh mentioned that this was more of, cost center to now portfolio hub journey. But look at the way how we have evolved, right? 20 years ago, 2007, when I was enabling Boeing, Airbus to set up their design centers, we were doing it thinking about one more data, one more CAD engineer, one more analysis, one more heat analysis will happen, and then somebody will take it back to there and testing will happen. Now today, those people who joined in 2007, 2025, 18 years hence, now they are the masters. So they are now functional leaders in their area, now who can potentially be DERs, had Boeing been next door. But today, if they want to fly in and be in Seattle, maybe they can be DER there, which are certified to sign. But today they are not. But functional knowledge has not gone by. So this I'm talking about aerospace, you look at any other industry. So today the startups, and startups is always not a phenomenon of only youngsters, right? Startup is a phenomenon of every age now. And I have met multiple very senior people who have gone into starting startups in different areas, functions, whether aerospace, automotive, semiconductor, Dr. Alok is there, I have worked with him in past. So you would see a lot of these startups, core functional knowledge is being given to you. There was a phenomenon in between when services companies, right, the large SIs, what they were doing is as soon as some new thing comes, they will gobble up the startup. And the whole mentality of startup was I need to create something of value and I'll sell it off, which is not gone today because that's how we are all built somewhere in mind. But there is a change happening. There's a shift happening also both ways. Now coming to the GCC side, as I said, the whole supply chain when you look at it and reinvent part. Now companies which are, let's say, prisoner to the legacy, and I'm using this word very cautiously, is companies which were there in 2003, 2004, 2005, they started with this intensity, I will hire 10,000 more people to get this delivered faster. But now that phenomena is gone. We used to be taking pride in saying number of people, then we said let's take pride in number of bots. Now we are taking number of, all the LLMs and other things that we're talking about. But somewhere this whole ecosystem is being fed by startups. Now a lot of it is visible, a lot of it is not visible. Now GCCs actually, which is playing this very differently, and I have done at least 15 hackathons organized for various GCCs, right, where we have gone curated startups. So personally I have been involved in many of them where we say at any point of time you will want to have a problem statement, you can think about a problem. I can tell you where is the startup lying today, right? So you touch a health industry, you touch a pharma industry, you touch semiconductor, you touch anything, I will say, and that is beauty of India, fortunately. And the kind of knowledge, I've met one of the startups, given that I'm mentoring them, they created a minute camera, right? This is for defense industry, which can go up to 30 kilometers, right? And this is not IIT. This is a team from some engineering college from Indore, right? So I met them and I started, and then now they also presented to Ministry of Defense in Aero India. And now they are going ahead. So when you see some of these startups, these are all very practical problems, how and eventually what it is going into. So when you see the reinvention part, which is where the ones who are prisoner of legacy now wants to get forward and say, okay, what do I do next? Now the headquarters, so-called, that while we say this, and very proudly I've been part of this, I'd say 17 years, captive GIC, GCC, the model that we have been talking about. But when you look at it from the true sense, still less than 100, 150 true GCCs are doing things which you will call it as a true capability centers work. Otherwise, still more than 1,000 are lying in this space, which is still looking at cost as an agenda. While on paper, as an envelope, I will use cost is not my agenda, skill is my agenda, capability is my agenda, but reality is not that. And the headquarters is not looking at that way, right? But it's always, and this is where the startups comes in picture, because they are boundaryless. They are boundaryless. They are, they are not bounded by any of the internal rules and policies. So you are going ahead saying that I am now going to bring startups. What I am not able to do, I will create innovation hubs, bring them in-house, and they are going to create this for me. As far as I'm enabling them, not every startups need money. Many of them do, but they are not asking for much. They are asking for space, and I can tell you, at least I know many of them. Sanket Atalji is here, and he's a sponsor for many in his previous avatar into it, as well as now in the Salesforce. But I know at least many of them who have created this, space for startups. It is both ways. While GCCs are looking at you, but I can assure you they will not gobble you up, right? And it is for you to go ahead and approach, irrespective of the industry and functions. And I would be of personal help in case, I need to attach to people. And we have, within PwC also we are running, but I'm not talking about PwC here today. But this is available for us to take it forward. So this was a little, a different way of putting this across, at how startups and GCCs are really enabling it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rajesh.
I think most of the points are covered, but from the startup point of view, what exactly we need are probably 5 things, right? One is infrastructure, which I think Rajesh covered it very well. So there could be, GCCs can help them with incubation center and all that stuff. Second, venture funds. And I think Sunil covered on that, saying that, okay, I don't know how many such ventures are there, like Samsung and all that. And these ventures are, when we talk about deep tech, right, these ventures has to be long-term ventures. This cannot be like, you don't want to see a return in 3-4 years, right? You want to be vested for a longer period of time. And that's how OpenAI could come up with such kind of foundation model. And I'm so glad today Abhishek was talking about 100,000 crore has been funded by government. And government has to play a bigger role here. But GCC also can play a big role by creating such venture funds, right? That's another one. And the third one, I think Rajesh covered about the talent pool in India, right? And there are a lot of GCC which still takes it as a captive or cost center here. But a lot of them are doing very high-end work today. I'm sure today the next version of Lambda has been basically designed and the strategy has been formed, and the Imagine Center, GCC Imagine Center is happening in India, or maybe Llama 3 has been, next version been basically discussed in the Meta office of India. So such talent pools are available, and startups can definitely, if they get access to such a startup, such talent pool, they can benefit from that, right? And lastly, very important point, Mark, basically Sunil covered, that access to business domain, access to user, access to data is very, very important for a startup, right? Even access to countries, right, their policy, because when they have to look at the entire world, they cannot be only look at India market, they have to look at basically US market, European market and all that. And these GCCs can provide that. There is an immense value if leaders from a particular business domain talk to a startup, right? So that is, of course, a great value. And from a startup needs, right, if GCC can help in these points, right, this will be I think they will create an ecosystem where deep tech startups can flourish. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. That was quite useful. So we do see one key takeaway from this set of discussion is that there are opportunities for startups some companies are formally working, some companies may not have evaluated that as a target market basically, as a startup community. So that could be an opportunity for companies to look and tap in, and then we can also work with companies like PwC to see how we can go to market in more effective manner if we are not able to individually reach out to people. Okay, now my second question is from your own experiences, because this is a people industry and the talent is important, and your company got recognized, Rajiva, for being as a place to work. So from that point of view, you've scaled over decades as a, I would like to know any lessons and any challenges you see in building a culture of innovation and relevancy from people point of view. How do people feel safe to try things, to fail, not in the various environments you would have worked, and this would be helpful for the companies which are in different life stages as a startup basically from that point of view, while your experience is in different sector except for Rajiva, who is directly running in his company. So more about how do you build a culture where people can innovate and be not afraid of failing, and when things are changing so fast, there is a skill of direct fear of displacement today. So how do you think people can balance that? How you are trying to balance that in your own spheres of work?
Yeah, I think it's a very broad topic.
Yeah.
But I think, any culture for going above and beyond, when you say you're innovating, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. See, one thing that I remember that I thought would be useful is, early on when I was working with a company, it was a good services company, I'll not take their name. They used to get, guys only from IITs or IIMs, and then they would go and tell the elite GCC. They didn't have a GCC at the at that time, right? They would come and say, look, we got guys from IIT, so for us it's not 8-hour days, it's going to be 10-hour days, and that it became a legal tussle later on and didn't work out very well. But it used to put a lot of pressure on the guys, on the ground, because your counterparts in US or in UK would always ask you, okay, 10-hour days, what did you do today? So I think that's kind of where it starts. If you say you're trying to build a culture of competency, it's not just you've got a nice LLM and please take those 5 trainings. I think it's also about making time for them. Their productivity. Is it effectively 5-hour days that Can you say you have happy Fridays? If you're working from home, how do you attend your meetings? All of that sort of, the way you manage these guys. And I think we're talking about building that culture in a, startup, right? Which is always rushed for, time to market. So, you're always pressed for time. I think the other way is sort of looking at what's happening in the open source market, right? Even if it's AI, there is a lot of fear of displacement. I can give you one example. I speaking to a person, he's based in Redmond, close to Microsoft, right? So all these vulnerabilities, when you take your software to market, or even when you have it deployed, right? You have to look at all these vulnerabilities that and you have to frequently keep evaluating them. So he's building his company just on that. He says, look, there is a public database. People will be looking at these vulnerabilities and coming back and saying, oh yeah, you are using Apache Log4j, so you got a vulnerability to announced in that. Now go fix it. But nobody's looking at that area where they say, how important is Log4j in my stack? Is it used by? Is it internet facing? Is it not? Is it a critical application, mission critical application? Based on that, you can sort of say, prioritize the fix, right? So I think that's another way, to build some of this culture of innovation. You look at what's happening out there from process perspective. I think one of the panels was talking about, the overall processes. I think that's because you critically start looking at the process and then you start to figure out, where can I optimize it? Not just technically, but from a process perspective as well. But yeah, I think, making time for them, setting that bar high, filing for patents. With startups, I think filing for patents is anyway important. So, those are a few things
Yeah, so incidentally, you have actually touched based on a question that is most frequently asked by the staff that I work with.
Right.
So every day there is an LLM. You go to bed and next day morning your LinkedIn is filled with, okay, here is the latest thing in AI. And how do I keep up with this developments? So in fact, I questioned myself because I did my PhD in NLP. And whatever thesis I've written is now one function called to a LLM, right? And I did mine is an external part-time PhD, so I took 9 years to complete it, right? And my guide was really strict at writing the code from scratch.
Right.
But now, if I were to rethink about my PhD, writing the code from scratch itself is a fundamental flaw. Right? I mean, you don't need to do that anymore, right? And typically, if you look at a BTech or an MTech program today, you are taught about 10 different programming languages. So, is it relevant in the era of LLMs and the evolution of AI is a big question. So, this is a question for the entire academics that we are used to as individuals. So, but at the same time, if you were to ask my opinion, earlier, all our curriculum was very directed towards having a mastery of one skill. So earlier we used to look for, okay, here is the Python professional, here is the JavaScript professional, or here is the React professional. So now here comes the time where we need to have that introduction of every concept. And I need to have that applied knowledge of every concept. I don't need to be master of anything.
Right.
It's just that I need to know things. And when I have a situation to solve something, I should be able to think on the feet, and I should be able to apply the concept that I am vaguely aware of.
Right.
Whether I use ChatGPT or something like that, I do, and then I should be able to apply that concept. But what comes as a very critical skill is being able to translate a concept into applied AI. That's the bigger challenge in the ecosystem that I see today. People know there are lots of ML algorithms that exist out there. People know that there is a LLM that is very good at this, there is an LLM that is very good at another task, etc. However, where I see people are not able to contribute better is sitting with a business user and being able to translate the concepts that I know. These are discrete concepts. But when you combine these discrete concepts, it will solve the pain point of a business user. That translation of a noisy environment and resolving that ambiguity and getting to that pain point and solving it by converting the discrete concepts that you know, thinking on the feet and applying that particular concepts to the problem to solve. That's the skill I think we need to master over a period of time. So even today, I mean, every day I read, and when I read alongside the paranormal psychology that I talked about, when I read about all of this, I don't have the time or the capacity to go into deep depth of everything, but I should know everything. Yes, that's the way to go about it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I think, your question was the innovation culture from a talent and how the GCCs are looking at, right? So I would start with the word innovation itself, right? While we all use innovation word, which is inverted commas, with different context in different companies. If you go to a product mindset company, somebody who's willing to launch products which are already product engineering, they see innovation very differently. When you go with the service mindset companies, because there are companies which are providing services, they use the word innovation very differently. So somewhere innovation is all about effectiveness and efficiency, and somewhere innovation is all about how this product can be modernized very differently by bringing in newer aspects of it. So when you look at each of these organizations, and talk about culture, I think it starts with the way you have brought in people. So like I think I just heard, if I just put GCCs in context, right, and I was telling you this about pre-2020, so I typically put some eras, right, pre-Y2K, to 2000 to 2010 or 2012, then 2012 to 2020, 20 to 22, and then 22 onwards, right? Because post-COVID is the biggest, I would say, churner of the phase, where what happened was no company, no industry would have survived if they were not a tech company. right? Because the only way to deal with your client was the tech way. That means you are really not meeting in person, you are driving it the way. So irrespective of the organization structure you belong to. Now companies defined it differently. So if you go to a services company, how are they defining innovation culture? Is saying that I am creating these 10 things. There was 5 years ago, few years ago, there was metaverse, then blockchain, then cloud, then AI, then ML, then generative AI. Now we're talking about agentic AI and things like that. So they keep adding that to their knowledge academy and courses, saying that if you score this 9 out of 10, you are pass. If you don't cross this, then you have to go and take it again and come back and say 9 out of 10. And I am now literate as an organization. 10 out of 10, or in my team of 20 people, 19 out of 20 have scored 9 or 10, so they are literate. So this is one way of pushing that agenda in a company, saying that yes, this is how you are going to start, because if you don't know this, you are not going to be ready for tomorrow. So we are forcing you to do this, right? Then there is GCCs, and I know many of them, which have created what you say fail fast. The whole concept is fail fast. So they're not giving you saying that any incentivization if you fail. But what is disincentivized is if you don't attempt, right? And there are many GCCs, but not many still. But I would say good start where you would see this behavior coming, and this is one way to look at it from an innovation culture perspective. Now when you again step back in definition of innovation, there is a whole concept of how do I do this faster? How do I introduce agentic AI that whole supply chain can be demolished now? How this, some of the Indian companies, and I'm part of some of the discussions where how Indian companies are saying that the old position of CTO, CDO, CIO can become CTDIO, right? And all of the functions are now getting into one place using the innovation, which is basically the whole concept of cloud, data and AI, and then the reuse of it. So things like that are really changing. So today, almost every organization is bringing that innovation in their own way. Some companies, innovation is all about reducing the type of work that they were doing or elevating. For example, in the operations world, where you talk about the definition of work as L1, which is call center, L2, which is next state, L3, L4. How you're pushing L4 to L3, L3 to L2, L2 to L1 and out, right? Things like that. So that's an innovation in that sense. So culture-wise, it is now almost every company which is in their, let's say, mid or the higher journey, this is part and participle for their survival. But then there are still companies operating pure labor-oriented, where the innovation is only about bringing efficiency and effectiveness. So I will just restrict this point for that.
Sure. Before we move on, I'll just take a pause from there. And sir, since I was part of PwC as well till last year, I was instrumental in setting up what we called as the PwC Intelligence or Insights Factory. I was the first member of it, and we scaled it to 500 members. So that's exactly what we were trying to do, to bring in a lot of insights and using the technology, AI-driven insights, where we could cross-sell and leverage our key accounts. So just to add in there. Yeah.
Thank you.
I will probably take this question from a startup perspective, but coming back to the question from GCC perspective, maybe 2-3 lines, right? There are so many innovations happening today, right, in every area, and every innovation, every area is feeding to other areas, right? So there are S-curves feeding to S-curves, and there is explosion in innovation. So GCC has no choice. I mean, all the multinationals, their GCC here, I think they have to think about looking into innovations, right? They will have to get there, because soon, right, there will be self-healing codes. So when we are talking about cost center to take care of BAU work, right, they may go away, right? Soon they will go away, and then you will have a codes will be self-healing by AI itself, right? But coming back to startups, right? And a startup that's, I don't think, and if you don't have that culture of failing fast, right, then you're not a startup, right? So I think the basic idea for a startup to focus on building the company rather than focus on business, right? Business will come, but building company is important. And one of the characteristics of a good startup is to not be afraid of failing, right? Yes. And that one has to keep in mind. And I have failed multiple times, and it's okay. It's okay to fail, learn from it, and then move on and get to the next venture. Thank you.
Yeah, you
I-
can start from there. You can keep the mic.
I think, sir, in the best
So we are
interest of
just
time, we have to
wrapping up
just,
now.
yes.
So before we conclude from the panel side, are there any questions anyone has for, we can take one or two questions for the panelists.
Anyone in the audience who wants to ask anything directly from the panel?
And please feel free to connect with them.
Yes.
And it's a good opportunity, you know, to build your
Yes,
connection.
we have a question there.
Yeah,
Can you just pass the mic there?
yeah, Vinay Talwarji.
Yes.
He's a chartered accountant.
Startups,
Right,
right?
right,
I think it's less than two.
right.
What are the reasons? I mean, like you were saying, Rajiv, phase, all that stuff. And Rajesh, you are from a consultancy, PwC. What are the reasons? I mean, is it a concept where all youngsters, yeah, I agree with one of the panels, okay, startups are not for youngsters anymore. It's a brain behind everything. Is it the finance? Is it the making quick money? Is it non-compliance? Or is it a dream which many startups have shown? We only see the heroes, we don't see the failure guys in
Yeah.
the market. Or is it something to do with, yes, I'll do the valuations after 5 years, I'll become a billionaire, start my own IPO, set up an IPO, sell it off and move off. What are the reasons you people feel as a non-finance, I'm saying non-finance guys, when you're running your own companies, corporates for failures for startups? I'm saying on behalf of those 9 people who have failed.
Right. Thank you very much for that question.
See, I have, I'll take that, okay, I think it was meant for you, but, I'll give you 2 examples, right? There's a startup here that started as a startup, I think 4-5 years ago now. It's now called Furlenco. Started as, rent your furniture. I was the CTO there for some time and, I knew Ajit very well. He started it. He came with a very small vision, but a very clear, crisp vision. He said, guys, a lot of people coming from US that come live in India, they live for a few years, then they go back. And he said, my message to them is, boss, live well. So, you are got your mattress tagged on floor, 4-5 guys, like, back to institute days, right? Like, ऐसे ही रहते हैं, ठीक है, no problem. And he was renting furniture, and I asked him, boss, you're renting furniture, it's capital intensive business, right? And he said, look, I'm renting wooden furniture. You can't do anything wrong with wood, and there is no furniture style. So he tied up with a guy who would go and refurbish his furniture. The only thing that you're changing is cushions and so on and so forth. In effect, you pay him EMI for buying the same thing. A wonderful business model, now he's, and he told me, look, my vision is I'll have my trucks all over Bangalore. I'll have a few warehouses. I'll have equal number of stores. So he's got a store now in HSR layout. I saw one near Bagmani Tech Park. I mean, that's the business, that's the vision, and it's scaled well. And then I met another hotelier just here on, Belandur, right? I don't remember the name of the hotel, but I went in there and he said, we are also a startup. I think that's another class which is, you said non-finance, maybe non-tech. They're all getting lumped as startup. So I don't know how far that statistics takes you. Those are 2 examples, right? To kind of, as you look at these stats, I think that also you have to remember.
Yeah, so I'll also take a stab on that, right? I also failed once. I tried it, and it definitely was paranormal experience, for sure, having a startup myself. I could just do it for 6 months or less. I think if I were to look back at my experience, I was too soon to the market. The market was not mature enough for the thought process that I had at that point of time. Maybe I was a couple of years ahead of what people really want.
Yeah.
So I think 2-3 points I'll just put it, right, why the startups are failing. I think first, anything that we start, right, is with an objective. that this is the objective that I want to achieve typically, and is that relevant? So a lot of time when we, like I think you just mentioned, right, before the time. Timing is important, and I said startup reacts to a phenomena, right? Because people want to see it that way, that this, today if you talk about the AI, Gen AI, agentic AI startup, people will suddenly raise all their ears and will run to you. But today if you say something else with that I will go and change a Fortran to a new thing, people might not look at you thinking, "Arey, ye to legacy ki baat kar raha hai," right? So there's a different way to look at it. So one is about what context you are starting in, and is this relevant to the current context? And I think startups now no more really go into saying that it's only tech, right? Tech, non-tech, anything is going to happen. Second, you mentioned about finance, but before finance, I think it comes to about how long you want to go, because when we say innovation thing or a fail fast thing, fail fast applies also in startups. And somebody who is really going into it, and I have seen many successful, guys, as well as people who have failed, and I have met with them. They have spent years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some succeed very fast. If you look at some of the tech guys, they have succeeded very fast, but there are various tech guys who have not. But during the learning process, how are you changing the path, right? Not necessarily you are in the front page or the top 100 startups coined by a business by today or India today or by a ministry. But it is also important to understand that what have you developed, how it is part of the supply chain when you look at in any industry context. And as far as it is there, so failure part, right? 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10. I am not getting into that statistic. The reason is because how are you defining failure?
Yes.
Right? For me, that is a bigger challenge. That how are you defining success, and how defining success? Is it about being in the chart of somebody? Or you're saying failure because you're not on somebody's chart. To me, I have met, there's a company, and I'll not name it. It's in Domlu, right? And I was looking for supply chain solutions, and the supply chain solutions was, how do I remove the whole, auction? When I do auctions, how do I totally take human away out of it? And I was wondering, will I get it, right? And this was the scale where I wanted to do, for one of my clients, saying that, can I do 500 e-auctions a day without a human involvement? And when I started searching, I realized that this was my next door, and I went to them, and they have a solution created. Now, I have not heard their name anywhere, right? Now, if I call them failure or success, this is running like at a very different scale and different size. So today, I think it's all about what objective you're getting into, how long you want to get into. Everybody wants to make money. I also want to make money. I don't think that's wrong. It's a question of, when you are ready, please make money, but don't let your objective go away, right? If as far as your objectives are intact, you will be successful. That's the way I would look at it for any startup's perspective. It may not be coming to you in today's, returning you in billions or millions. If it is returning that you can run your house and you want to run it, trust me, in 5 years, 10 years, you will get to that million. It's a question of time. People are running away from that because somewhere the seniors, I would put the seniors there who are embedding into this, or the mentors, that they let this, it can happen this way faster. There's no faster solution to anything. If you get faster, you're lucky. But everything, like we all have been taught that there's a method to the madness. And and last point, because this is the AI session, I want to just on a very contrasting note. In one of the client meeting, I was there, and after 1.5 hour discussion, for some reason the word AI didn't come in. And this was recent discussion. This is as late as last 3 weeks back. And this was with one of the largest pharma, very global pharma, big one. And the gentleman, he was leading the whole, the global R&D and innovation. He said, Rajesh, thanking you, being a consultant, you didn't use the word AI in the whole discussion. Right? So maybe it was by mistake or not by design, but sometimes we are overusing it.
First of all, let me thank the gentleman who pushed me to this side, right? Because I am a slow thinker. So, Abhishek, the previous session, Abhishek mentioned that US and China is ahead of us, right? And they are definitely ahead of us in terms of innovation, where they are in deep tech and all that. The question is why our startups are failing, and probably their startups are doing better than us, right? So let's take one by one, maybe. USA, right? So USA, there are investors who have deep pockets, right? Let's talk about Elon Musk, Sam Altman. They invest in early startup, right? Whereas the investment happens in our country at the stage when they come back, prove something, has some user base, and so on and so forth. And we don't have such deep pockets in our country. Okay, that's from the investment, and our startups are mostly more focused about making it big and making it to unicorn as quickly as possible, right? Whereas if you look at China, right, maybe I can just suspect, or I don't have enough data about
Sir,
it.
sorry to break your thoughts, but we need to just wrap it up in a minute or so.
So, and because of the probably communist economy and all that, they can probably stay vested for a longer period of time. You don't have to quickly get to unicorn stage and all that stuff, right? So, these are some of the points, and I, of course, have more points to talk about it, but I'll take a break. We are anyway coming back to the session, right? No? This is
No,
the last
so
one?
yes,
Okay.
we are
I think-
to wrap
okay,
up.
thank you.
Yeah. That was, quick, beautiful answers to some of the questions, and thanks audience for popping up questions. We are running a bit late, so I'm so sorry to cut down the interesting conversation, but I must thank all my guests on this panel for sparing their thoughts and time for being with us. Please be with me for one more minute before we thank you with a momentum, and we would also have a group photograph.
Thank you. So while that is getting fixed, I'll use this time.
We are already fixed.
We are fixed, okay.
Can you bring us, please? Can you bring for all? So much. Bring. This is a pleasure to have you all with us. And this is for
Thank you,
moderating the
Bharat.
session so well. Thank you, sir. Please come forward to have a group picture.
Sure.
Please.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. I'll catch up with you. Moving next. Moving next. Perfect. Please settle down fast. Moving next, we would have another very interesting keynote address, and here we would talk about. Okay. So I would, for that session, I would love to call our next guest on the dais, Sankat Atal sir, Managing Director, Salesforce India. Sanket sir. Yes, everyone please settle down fast. Please, welcome on board, sir. Yes, I'll give you a mic, sir. We have it. Don't have a clicker as such, but
Click the next slide. I'll just say next slide and you'll play. Okay. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Lovely having you on board. I've worked closely with Salesforce. I have been to your offices in Hyderabad and other places. Yes. So know the great work you all do in the AI space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, folks. And thank you for settling down. We're delayed a little bit, so I'll try to make this fun and keep it short. And Salesforce as a company is all about serious tech, but not taking ourselves too seriously. So hence, just before I joined Salesforce, I had gone to the website to research what it's all about, and I saw all these cartoon characters. I don't know how many of you have ever been to this thing. And I thought I was in the wrong place. Looks like some Disney something or the other. But it's really important for our overall company culture to have this kind of an approach. It makes technology much more approachable. And, you know, there's not much gyan I can give everybody. It's just going to be basically what Salesforce is all about. But we'll have some fun along the way. Now, over the past years, so this is a build-up slide, so keep on doing next when I ask you to. Okay? So the first picture on the left, wait, no, go back. That's why I click it as one more. So, I don't know how many of you have been to San Francisco recently or some other parts of the world where they have self-driving cars. And you can get taxis like that. It's super exciting. It's also quite scary, right? But that's tech for you. Next. Interesting robots being created all over the place almost every week. There's new news about some interesting thing that robot has done. This is a robot trying to crack an egg, and apparently it's been able to do so, and much more advancements are there. Next. Interesting things with agriculture. Prathamesh, he was part of my accelerator program at Oracle. He works a lot with agriculture. Lot of interesting augmented reality stuff happening there. Next, please. Medicine. Not a week goes by when you don't hear about yet another approach to solving cancer, right? Or some other thing. In fact, I was at a very interesting gathering recently hosted by my good friend Naga, where I met a startup working on cures for vitiligo right here in India. And there are so many other, so there's a lot of work going on within the Indian tech industry as well, outside of the things that most of us think of as startup work. Next. Factory automation, next. Netflix, getting to understand what we like, what we don't like, making our lives more interesting, much more binge watching. Next. Phones are getting much more powerful. Next. And finally, home automation. So all of these things, all of us experience on a day-to-day level, and it's no news to anybody that all of it is heavily influenced by AI. Okay? And it's been in the vogue for quite some time. So now it's not just our day-to-day stuff with the cars, etc., that's being influenced. It's also the CXOs of the companies. You know, they are doing their job, and part of their job is to figure out all of these things. But now it's exacerbated because the time to get things done is yesterday, and they're expected to use AI in very interesting ways to be able to get this thing done very efficiently. So there's a lot of pressure on, hey guys, when I tell you next, then you do next. Right? So there's a lot of pressure on CXOs to deliver and leverage AI. Okay? And earlier, you know, there was talk on how the progression of AI happened. Before we get into the details, because all of you know this, a long time back, around 25, 30 years ago, there was a big talk about fuzzy logic. Do people remember fuzzy logic? Anybody here? Right? Fuzzy logic was big. There was the first introduction of AI in the, you know, in consumer product stuff. What product do you remember had fuzzy logic? Washing machines, right? That was a big deal, right? Also, Nikon cameras had fuzzy logic to make your photos much, much better. So that was all AI. Now, since then, we've made a lot of progress, right? You know, when ChatGPT came out, people were like, wow, it's a big thing. But what made the fundamental difference? Because research in AI has been going on for a long time. In fact, when I was in college, and I'm not an IIT graduate, I studied at Cornell, and I was part of a research project for AI. A lot of the stuff that's happening today is based on the fundamentals that have been around for quite some time. So what's the biggest difference that has happened? Somebody here? Compute power, exactly. So compute power is there, storage power is there, access to the compute power as well. Because earlier, big companies could afford stuff, but not everybody. Today, access to all this great tech has been democratized. So absolutely, compute power. But there's one more thing. Data. Without data, none of this would be possible. And that's why the person from Mayte was talking about, you know, data and some course he mentioned. Super important. So Salesforce has been in the AI business for more than a decade now. We set up an AI research team from some Stanford profs, and we introduced AI in our products in a manner that's easily consumable. So we are of the fundamental belief that to use the latest tech, you don't need to become an expert in that tech. It should be provided to you in the context in which you do day-to-day work. This democratizes access to that technology. So our first introduction was predictive AI. So we are known for our CRM, but we have many other products. So within that, predictions were made based on AI, which allowed people to do the work better. People might not have known that this is AI, but it was definitely addressing major problems that they had. And then came, of course, generative AI. We wrote one of the first papers on Gen AI, and we introduced it into our products very quickly, shortly after all the chat GPT buzz started. So rather than people wanting to create, poems for their son's birthday or whatever it is, here Gen AI is used to create efficient marketing campaigns, etc. And today we're in the age of agents. So just a very quick one, everybody is talking about agentic AI. Somebody previously mentioned that as well. People also just call them chatbots, right? So what's the fundamental difference? Are they the same thing? What do you think? They're not? What's a chatbot? Okay, yeah, so this is a good question for an ITK gathering. He could probably give an entire talk on this. But absolutely, so there's a lot of confusion. In the general market, non-techies, they call everything chatbots. But yes, chatbots are more predictive. It's a set, path that they follow based on what's been, told to them, etc. So repetitive tasks are made easier. Whereas, I'll just say next one I ask you to, okay? So the first part of agents is there's an interface which is more human-like, okay? It's leveraging LLMs. It's super important because you should be able to talk to an agent like you're talking to a human in some fashion. This leads to digital labor. Next, please. In addition to that, like you mentioned, there has to be access to data, contextual data. When you're accessing LLMs, what do you use to access LLMs? What's the way in which you prompts, right? And there's a whole field called prompt engineering now. But what's key behind prompt engineering? It's the contextual data, okay? And that's called grounding. So you have to be able to do this. And when you're running an agent for an enterprise, that data has to be from the enterprise, okay? Super important, that grounding has to be solid. Next, leveraging that whenever there's a query or there's something to be done, there has to be the ability to reason. Almost like in the database world, there used to be an optimizer. Here, you have to come up with a plan on what is to be done. Next. Once you figure out what is to be done, you have to be able to do it, right? Chatbots can't do it, but agents can. So you have to be able to invoke some kind of an API to effect the thing you're trying to do. Next. And if you can't do it, if the agent can't do it, the agent should be able to hand it over to a human. Very important. Next. And finally, since this is AI, the entity has to be able to learn. Okay, so these are some characteristics. In some other place, you might find other characteristics, that's okay, but basically, this is what defines an agent. Next, please. But like I said, you're only as good as your data, right? So there's a lot of talk going on how do you access the data, etc. Next slide. So I mentioned the need for CXOs to do more and more with AI to advance the companies. The fact is today, the average consumer is quite concerned about data privacy. What's happening with the data? This morning when I was meeting with my fellow speakers here, we were talking about that. And one person was saying, oh, this is very private, etc. Most of us agreed that we have given up, right? Sense of privacy is like a myth now, potentially. But then company data, that has to be sacrosanct, right? So we have to be careful. And at the same time, so much expectations are there from CXOs to do more and more that there's a sense of anxiety. How can I do this? Will I be able to do it? Technology is advancing so fast. Lots of things are happening, so it's a big conundrum that they have, and they have to be able to do it in a manner that's secure and compliant. right? And takes into account the whole concept of what to do with data. So if you take a look at an average company, there are lots of sources of data, okay? There'll be structured data, there'll be unstructured data, there'll be various applications you're using that has data, so that your data is spread all over the place. We call them islands of data, okay? And with islands of data, unless they are put together in some coherent form, you have trapped value. Being able to leverage these and create value for the company is really important. Plus, this is the foundation for any AI strategy anybody needs to have, okay? So it's very important to do this. So towards this, we have a product called Data Cloud, and Data Cloud allows you to tap information from all your data sources within the enterprise. Like I said, structured, unstructured, and there's also with certain data sources the ability to do a no copy. So you don't use extra space. We just basically allow you to connect there, and you create a virtual view of the entire data of the company, right? Now with this access is useless unless you create some kind of a unified view of things, right? So we call the initial process harmonization, where we create metadata that allows everybody to have a view of the data in a manner that's well understood, okay? Using this, you can create a unified view of a customer, a 360-degree view of the customer. This, in turn, can be leveraged by any applications or agents, etc., that will want to leverage the data. It's a very important part. Most of the times when people talk about AI and they talk about data, they talk about training LLMs, etc. But this is fundamental to any AI strategy. Next. We have a product we launched last Dreamforce called Agentforce. There's lots to it, but basically it is our strategy on how to introduce agents to all of our customers to be able to leverage our products and to create new stuff. Next. A brief description of overall what we've got. So we've got the Salesforce platform, which has fundamental building blocks for all of our applications. All our apps are built on top of that. And in there included is MuleSoft integration, which allows you to integrate data from various sources, whatever you'd like. But on top of that is Data Cloud, the thing I just mentioned. Okay, and Data Cloud is super important. On top of this Data Cloud is Data Cloud provides the metadata, which is used by all of the apps across, so they have a unified view of whatever it is in the enterprise they need to access. And then within Agentforce, there's an agent for every app from Salesforce. Okay, and you're able to take those agents, customize them for your company, and be able to deploy them. That's the fundamental idea, and Data Cloud supports retrieval augmented generation, etc. So you're able to do all the fancy stuff you'd like to do, and your agents will have the smarts of the entire company. Next, please. So I'll show you a quick, so Salesforce is also about humor. So there's a fun ad I'd like to quickly share with you. Let's see if we can play that. I hope the audio comes. There should be a play button. Okay, maybe not. Let's just get to the next slide, guys. Let's start the presentation from here. No, what the hell is that? It's okay, just get to the next slide. I'll skip the video, don't worry about it. Get to slide 14 and put it in slideshow mode. Okay, so anyway, that video is funny. If anybody wants, I'll send you the link. But it talks about the leveraging agents for almost all kinds of things, in this case, the medical field, okay? But we also believe in drinking our own champagne, and one of the most visited sites for Salesforce is our support site, help.salesforce.com. That today is powered by an agent, our own agent, and it's handling an overwhelming majority of the calls that are coming in freeing up people to do more complex work. And thus, we have satisfied customers and satisfied employees within Salesforce as well. Next, please. We were talking about GCCs, just a quick one. I joined just about 4 years ago, and with the task of being able to scale the site. And today I'm very happy that we have grown dramatically. When I joined, we were like around 2,500 people. Today we are 13,000 plus, and we have grown in a really good way. One is that we are adhering to our values. Top right are Salesforce's values, and it's very important that the local GCC adheres to the overall mothership's culture, because that's the way you can truly collaborate with all of the groups that you would be interacting with. We made sure that's there. A key part of that is a 1:1:1 philosophy that we have of giving back to society. So we practice that here quite a bit, and we encourage all our partners and customers to do the same thing. And when it comes to development, we were talking about maturity of the GCCs rather than just being augmentation centers. Here we have presence of teams for almost all the products of Salesforce, and it's not just having teams, but it's having teams which are well formed. So we have product managers, program managers, developers, etc., etc., etc. A big design team as well, for example. Okay, very proud of that. We've done an excellent job with this, and I think a lot of other GCCs in India as well are up there in the maturity curve. So we're truly peers of the motherships. Next, please. Now, when it comes to startups, I have a deep passion for startups. There are a lot of entities within Salesforce. When I joined, there were a lot of entities within Salesforce that were trying to connect to the startup ecosystem. And I met a lot of startups who wanted to connect with entities within Salesforce. But that connection was missing. It was a very fragmented approach. So what we did was we created something called the Salesforce Startup Community. And this community basically was created to bridge this particular gap. Now, Salesforce has something called the Trailblazer community. Okay, the Trailblazer community is any person working on Salesforce or related to Salesforce is called the Trailblazer. Now, all companies have something like this, right? They are called user groups, for example. But at Salesforce, it's something special. The Trailblazer community is quite cohesive. When it comes time to help each other, they do that. They run courses, technology courses, they do mentoring of each other. So if you join the Trailblazer community and you'd like to have a career progression or try to find something, you reach out and people are there to help. They hold conferences without any support from Salesforce. In fact, that was the first thing I attended after joining Salesforce. There was a Trailblazer community conference, and I honestly did not expect much, except maybe, 40, 50 chairs and people just talking about some tech. It was huge, completely done by the Trailblazer community. And that inspired me to create something different. So the Salesforce startup community is not an accelerator, and it's not an incubator. It's indeed a community of startups. When you come in, we try to see that there's a mapping of what we can offer and what you would like to do. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the most important thing is it's a community. So you don't join a cohort and graduate in 6 months and it's all done. That's done very well by a lot of entities. I've done that before also. But here, once you join, you're part of the family. What is expected from you, however, is when others join and they need help, you step up and help them. Okay? It's called the paid forward model. And quite frankly, I did not expect it to succeed because most startup founders don't have the time, man, to help out. But I'm very happy that I was wrong. It's doing really well. And lots of companies have joined. In fact, we have more than 350, I think 370 startups now. And they are indeed helping each other, and we've expanded to Singapore as well. Now, all of them are embracing AI as well, just like everybody else in the world. Just a real quick one. Next one. Next, please. Yeah. So whether it's in sales, we have agents to help you in all aspects. One thing I'd like to point out here, that if a company has a particular customer that needs to be spoken with and you want to send in AE there, but the AE does not know the customer, the agent can be designed to actually train the AE on how to communicate with that customer. It's a very important skill, typically done by humans, but this way you can automate and scale quite well. Next. Again, service, I showed you an example of what we do ourselves. It's every startup owner's dream to scale like anything. And when you scale, when you have a lot of customers, you have a lot of problems. Being able to deal with that is important, otherwise you lose your customers. So you can scale using our agents. Next. Marketing, again, same thing, I'm not going to go into examples for everyone. Commerce, again, you can use your imagination to be able to figure out what all you can do with agents for even something like commerce. Next. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we provide several tools. One more. Yeah. We provide several tools for you to be able to do that. There's Agent Builder. You can use that to actually customize and deploy agents. It's very simple. Everything is NLP based, so you just write in English what you'd like to do. In fact, 3 weeks ago, I was at a press conference we were hosting in Hyderabad, and there were several newspapers who were there. So we took the journalists, and in half an hour, we trained them on Agent Force, and each one of them ended up creating an agent, right? All in English. They were not technologists at all. So fairly powerful. Agent Force for developers is something that's available in Visual Studio. Again, using NLP, you can create code, you can do what-if scenarios, etc., making it really easy. And finally, we have something called App Exchange. Anybody here heard of App Exchange? It's our enterprise application marketplace. We're now calling it Agent Exchange because everything is AI and agents now, right? But it's the world's largest enterprise app store, and that's where you can create stuff and put there. And the other thing I'd like to share, I was discussing with Ashish here, he's a venture capitalist. We were talking about where do startups get ideas? And it's one of the difficult things, right? How do you come up with what to do? We are smart people, but sometimes that's the most difficult thing. So we have a site called Idea Exchange. I think it's ideas.salesforce.com, where you can go and find all the tech gaps that exist in all our products worldwide. And these tech gaps are entered by either our own people or people out in the field who have, trailblazers who have found them. So these are real problems that exist, and they're add-ons to our technologies. So startups can go in there, take a look at these, and decide to address them, and you have an instant market for you. Okay? So really, really important. Next, please. Finally, I think this is the last slide. What all do we do? Most of the fundamentals that you should do in any startup program. We have trainings from subject matter experts. Next. Yeah. We guide you on how to create applications and agents and put them on our Agent Exchange. Next. Access to our products. Connection with people with money. Next. And most importantly, the community. The community is there to help, right? And that's something that everybody is leveraging to great extent. There are lots of people who have difficulty creating applications for one reason or the other. We have a very strict process of approval. We were running into issues there, but then people helped each other. We tried to smoothen the path, and today I think the number of applications being produced from India has increased quite a bit. I'll just add one more thing before I end. There was a lot of discussion earlier about startups, what they should be doing. They should be focusing on deep tech and this tech and that tech. What's important is figuring out, what problem you'd like to solve, right? Who is your customer and how to do it the best way? Whether it's AI or any other technology, these are just mechanisms and tools to use. If you put too much emphasis on that, you'll be trying to focus on the buzzwords rather than the real thing, which is the customers. So please focus on the customers. That's the most important thing. Technologies will come and go, but your eye should be on the ball. With that, I think this is my last slide. Can you do next, please? And I'd like to thank you. We typically start off with the thank you thing. There was an issue with the slides. But in Salesforce, there's a tradition. We always start with a thank you. First of all, thank you, Sharmaji. He's not here. I'm going to give him a hard time for not attending my talk. But thank you so much for inviting me. I've spoken at SMCs many times before. And it's always a great place to network and meet friends. So thank you so much.
Absolutely a pleasure, Shar, having you here with us and sharing your insights on how Salesforce is doing it. I personally know that Salesforce has been doing great work. I visited your office, So I have seen, these chatbots and these trailblazers myself. Thank you so much for coming and blessing the occasion and sharing your thoughts. Yes, from here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure having you. You want to say?
Yeah, I will moderate this session.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Please stay seated. Please stay on your seats. The next session is again a very energizing and interesting session that would be based on enterprise AI agents, enterprise AI adoption strategies, budget, and buy versus build debate. It's a very interesting concept that we would be talking about, and the entire session would be moderated by Atishay Jain, who is the co-founder Jingle AI. So all over to you, Atishay.
Welcome everyone. A lot of AI enthusiasts and AI startups are there, and I am talking with them since morning, and everyone has one question, like how companies are buying AI softwares. Are they building it internally or they are buying it? If they are buying, how much they can pay for that? So we would love to discuss these things with our panelists today. So I would love to welcome Vaibhav Khandelwal sir. Vaibhav Khandelwal is co-founder and CTO of Shadowfax. Shadowfax is one of largest and fastest growing logistics company in India, which is serving almost every consumer brand, and they are doing more than 60 million orders per year. Next, I want to welcome Narsimha M leads the AI and search at Make My Trip, and I think everyone have tried Make My Trip here, so you can complain to Narsimha if search is not working as per your expectation. Next, I want to welcome Shubham Jain. Shubham Jain leads data and data engineering division at Fairmoney. Fairmoney is one of largest neobank serving African countries. Welcome. I'll try to keep this session short and crisp. I know everyone is hungry and waiting for lunch. So I'll directly start from the first question. How companies are thinking of building AI agent? Are they thinking to build it internally or buying it, and how they are approaching it? Vaibhav sir.
Thank you so much. So, see, from our experience perspective, we would like, I mean, we are not at the moment investing on building our own LLM for that matter. We are exploring the open source alternatives that are there. The other point that comes in here is that even if you use certain open source alternatives like Llama and similar setup, you still require a lot of hardware or infrastructure to support it. Hence, at the moment, given the current technology, given the current landscape, it is actually better to take support from a common hosted platform which can provide or ensure the appropriate data security and context for a business. So that would be my thought.
Okay. Well, we are using agentic systems at multiple places. That's how I would put it. First of all, of course, the search and all the data science decisions that happen behind the scenes are using all the AI ML models. But we are working on some chatbots, and some of them would be, besides the chatbot, there are some asynchronous flows you can think of. Say, for example, trip planning, travel planning, itinerary planning. Okay. So in all these, we are using LLMs which are proprietary as well as domain-specific trained small language models, mainly because the latencies tend to be high when we use the proprietary models. But to your question about are we using agentic systems and are we building it or using external systems, models we are using both proprietary and like self-hosted, but given the fundamental nature of problems that we are using these, like let's say chatbots for conversation, we do need to connect to the memory, we do need to connect to orchestrate and connect with the various tools or our APIs, and also need to have a framework. So not just the LLM, and hence combining all this becomes agentic, or rather actually multi-agentic. And for the asynchronous also, like for example trip planning and itinerary planning, it takes a lot more calls, multiple calls as well. So as if it is an agentic thing, looking at the data, again calling systems, etc. Again calling an LLM to plan, replan. You'll get to hear more about it in future as we launch these chatbots and other releases. But yes, it's all multi-agentic. Work is in progress.
Thank you so much again. I know it's lunchtime. Everybody must be hungry. So thank you all for staying, first of all. To the question, so fintech is a highly regulated industry. Everybody knows that. Right? There are a lot of policies. There are a lot of credit policies. There are a lot of regulations, government regulations, and so on. So building AI or integrating AI itself is not straightforward. You have to take into account a lot of things when you try to build such workflows, AI agentic workflows. Now we delve upon whether we should, because for a startup, the speed to market, or the time to market is critical. You cannot just have a lot of time invested upon trying to understand what works best and what doesn't work best. Sometimes it's about you make a move and then you say how it works for you. So what we did was we actually identified a lot of use cases within our ecosystem wherein we could probably build our own agents, build our own workflows, maybe build multi-agent workflows as well. And also we identified cases where it was more significant to kind of just buy it and launch it, right? I'll give you some examples from the industry, right? From the fintech industry and from what Fair Money did. So, we have a lot of credit scoring models that run in, and there's a whole workflow that runs in, wherein the credit scoring happens. There are fraud detection workflows. There are data science models, proprietary models that have been built over a period of few years. Now, it's not easy to basically just build everything using agents, right? Because you have to take into account a lot of regulations. You have to take into account a lot of legacy stuff that lies. And I think in the previous session, Sanket was stressing upon that, it's garbage in, garbage out. If your data is not there, you're not going to achieve anything with building agents or integrating these AI. So what we thought was that maybe these are certain places where building our own workflows or building our own agents would be a lot more beneficial, because you will have a lot more governance over these agents in the long run. And maybe something like, say, customer service, right? Building a customer service agent is still a good way, because you achieve a lot within a short period of time. So, use cases like those, probably require that, okay, we go for solutions that are out there in the market and then use those and build those agents or integrate your agents. So yeah, I think it's contextual again. The build versus buy decision, it pretty much depends on which industry and, what kind of use cases you are looking at.
So a lot of startups must be there. I'll give them opportunity to ask questions. Before that I want to ask, let's say I start, so there is a statement that every investor gives to startup that Indian companies don't pay. So is it a reality that Indian companies don't have that much bandwidth to pay to startups, or they pay but
if you can write in a form. See, I get where you're coming from. See, normally, historically in India, we have had the actual users of some of our tools or some of the SaaS products to be big enough companies. And these big enough companies have always thought about that, why do I pay a recurring amount for a particular technology or a particular resource? Instead, I should spend my developer bandwidth in building it. Now, what has changed in the recent course of time is that when we, for example, talk about AI, the major delta that gets created is on the underlying data that you have. Now, however big as a company you are, if you do not have access to a good amount of data to train your AI models, you cannot build a good model out there, irrespective of how good your internal teams are. And hence the propensity for these businesses to appreciate buying other softwares which are performing better increases. So that is point number one. So even for the bigger companies which have the resources in terms of developer bandwidth or in terms of the customization that they expect, they are also increasingly moving in purchasing certain of these software subscriptions. The other part is that in the recent time and when we look at Indian ecosystem in the recent part of time has been more competitive. You would see multiple companies which are entering in the same domain, trying to solve the same problem. And once that scenario is there, the need for speed increases. And when need for speed exists between an organization, at that point in time, they are fine in buying pre-built solutions that are there. So these are a function. I would not blanketly say that Indian companies are not that comfortable in paying up for a software. I would say that those scenarios are changing with the kind of tools that are coming up, the underlying data or the underlying compute that is needed, which is not democratically available to even the bigger of the companies. And second, the need for speed. I mean, as a very simple example is our quick commerce ecosystem. The moment it started scaling up, we have seen almost every consumer company trying to enter into that space, trying to solve those similar set of problems. Now, the underlying engines that are needed to solve that problem, those cannot be built by all the companies in a very short period of time. And hence, a number of these companies are comfortable in actually using some pre-built solutions out there. So, yeah, that would be my take.
So your question was mainly in terms of the tech solutions, right?
Yeah. So is it true that Indian companies are not buying software, or they are buying but?
No, I think Make My Trip is one of the brands, is actually a group. It has purchased many companies, but for the incremental business and the value add that they can do for the Bharat customers' travel experience and the entire ecospace, whether it's Savari or various other Quest to Travel or other companies. But to your question about whether we collaborate or use the services of startups, we do use, at least at Make My Trip, we use for their unique solution and the need of the hour. For example, we're working with Sarvam and the smallest AI for their text-to-speech and speech-to-text solutions, especially for the vernacular solutions for the Bharat customer, to make it very, to make the chat experience, whether it's in terms when we put in front of the customer or even in like a customer support situation, we do use those services. However, there are many other places where large organizations see that there is a long-term investment possible, and it's possible to develop the solutions in-house, the more obvious thing. So it's about the investment capital and how long you want to invest within your employees and to build that IP, right? And how fast you want to take the product to the customer. And if we are really quick, and if you want to be in a situation extremely, we need to collab and use an existing solution, quickly build something, and then put in front of the customer. We do. In some cases, we have use the startups APIs, but not in every case, because we need to look at the unique value proposition that they bring in, which is obvious.
So I think cash flow is a problem that every startup almost deals with, right? Every single day you really think about how much you're spending, where could you save, what you could do, right? So efficiency and scalability both are important. There are startups in the growth phase who want to grow very fast, right? But then at the same time they also have to deal with the constraints on the cash flow. So this problem, whether Indian companies can pay, I guess that's more related to how fast a company has to grow or wants to grow. I think we are all living in an era where you try fast and fail fast, right? You don't really have years to try things out and then fail. So a lot of companies, in fact, are now paying for these softwares or these enterprise softwares to build solutions quickly and deliver it to the client. I'll give you an example. So I was recently consulting with a firm called Enigma. It is a procurement ERP software firm which is built entirely on agents, right? They're using agents to right from like sourcing the vendor to the invoicing and to the actual payment, final payment that is done, right? Now their goal was that because everybody is trying it out, right, they have to get things fast into the market. So does it really make sense for them to pay and buy these softwares and build things up, or maybe start building these things in-house, right? So I think there are decisions that every company has to make, and every company must be, I'm sure must be thinking of whether they really have that cash flow with them to invest in these and get things done. Another problem that I think all the startups generally face is with how the data is structured. In the previous session also, Sanket was talking about that data is all staggered, right? You have data staggered across multiple clouds, multiple storage systems, multiple file systems. How do you bring all of that together, right? And then how do you really build things on top of that? So sometimes there might be companies who are basically trying to help you build the solution at scale efficiently and quickly, but then you are really facing a different problem, and then you might not be able to invest as much as you would want to. I guess it totally depends on which stage the company is in, and what are your cash flows looking like.
So great to hear the use cases, and great to hear that Indian companies are really buying softwares and startup products to move faster. I have used voice agents from your companies, like I have got lot of AI calls from Shadowfax. So just want to know, we are hearing lot from the companies in their marketing as well as LinkedIn that they have created this AI agent, this software, but when you dig deeper, most of them are not productionized. They are still in POC phase. So if you can guide folks on what is stopping them to get to production, is it just development time, or is there some blocker, or also a space where startup, if you guide any startup, can fill in to help you productionize those agents faster?
See, productionization is a multi-layer problem. There are multiple things that impact. Number one thing that I would say that it is a transformation that happens. The use cases that are currently being automated by agents have been in some way executed by humans at the moment. Now when you are running an transformation where you are saying that these humans, what they are doing, that would be replaced by AI, you need to drive that very carefully and very intelligently. So, I mean, so see, when I say transformation, I'm trying to bifurcate that one side of the solution is solving it on a technical side of things. The other part of the solution is also solving it on an organization level part of things. How do you take care of the organizational balance in that direction? So that is the transformation part, aligning all the different stakeholders, also creating, I mean, for us in the logistics industry, for example, there have been multiple instances where we have tried to develop product, irrespective of what we are doing it on the AI front or not. These products tend to automate a lot of what is done by humans. As founders or as leaders, we know that this is something that we need to do in order to scale. This is we need to do in order to make the business more viable. But at the same time, it is also very important to manage the human element of it. How do you communicate it to that human stakeholder that now what you are doing will be done by a machine? And then what would you be doing next? And then they also correlate with an element of layoffs that tend to happen, or the kind of news that spread across the overall ecosystem about the layoffs that it might have. See, a lot of us who are sitting here, we might know what all AI can do and what all AI cannot do. But when we look at, when we understand it from a lens of a person whose task is actually getting automated by AI, they actually have very vague information of what AI cannot do or what AI can do. And hence their fear element is way too high. The more challenging the problem becomes on that end. So first, I would say on the transformation part. Second is on the engineering part things as well. See, the idea is it's very easy to, and that goes across in almost all the AI models that we or people build in. It is easier in the current scenario to reach an 80% accuracy. To reach from 80 to 90% is maybe 2x or 3x of the effort depending on the use case that is there. And that is where the idea of going into depth of different use cases, the idea of going into solving each of those edge cases becomes important. When we talk about Gen AI use cases, there is a known problem of hallucination, which even as users, even as non-technical users as well, they know that at times they get an incorrect information which appears to be written in a way that it looks like an accurate information. So in order to productionize it, in order to actually take that onus and ensure that this solution works for all the entire use cases, it's a more deeper problem, to be honest. And I would also want to intersect here is that when you have your probabilistic models which are automating stuff, the importance of keeping human in the loop also increases. So the transformation project itself becomes much more complex. You want the humans to be in the loop, but you also want to automate some bit of their work as well. So how do you lead that transformation in an organization is an important step. Just carrying the first point forward. So yeah, that is another there. And third, I think, and I might be wrong here, a large number of the startups who have maybe publicly publicized, they might just be a wrapper on top of a publicly available or a general availability LLM that is there. Now when you are doing so, your iteration cycle or your tuning cycle is much more complex, is much more difficult. So the time that it will take you for to be able to productionize it might be difficult. And fourth, again an unpopular opinion, or I'm not sure how many of us agree to it. See, we are in that age where Gen AI is, or AI in general, is a fad. Companies companies, businesses, they want to associate themselves with AI. They want to ensure that they are AI first, that they are working on the latest AI trends. And this has multiple benefits. You are able to attract talent better, you are able to maybe attract investment better. And in all that hype that is there, it is bound to happen that a lot of companies would want to just go live with a pilot very quickly and then maybe figure out incrementally whether this fits their business case or not. So yeah, multiple reasons according to me.
Well, there are so many features and elements which are being commoditized by the LLMs, right? Like as in one of the panel discussions previously, the speaker spoke about like his entire thesis now is like an LLM call, a single LLM call, and a large language model, a powerful one, commoditized, would kind of solve it. So, and there are many and organizations are investing in their own employees as well to upskill, reskill in terms of data science, AI or Gen AI. So where could the startups add value is that the LLM, since if we talk about mainly the Gen AI, agentic and the LLM space, LLM alone will not be enough, right? It also needs the orchestration, hooking into the company specific data and company specific APIs, fetching it, using it, and there's a lot of other things that happen behind the scenes. So there is a good amount of friction, I would say, friction which the commoditized models alone cannot solve. So given the pace at which all the models are evolving, the startups also have to quickly pivot to finding the friction points, whether it's in terms of, let's say, vernacular, speech tech, or in terms of how efficiently one can translate the company's unstructured, structured data into all the product graphs and other things with very high quality evaluators as well. It's just not like wrap around an LLM call because, as I said, it may take to do a proof of concept, it may be quick, but after that, the 2x, 3x effort, I would say like the Pareto principle, 20% effort takes to do a POC, then the 80% takes to actually get to really high quality system that you are comfortable putting in front of the customer. So there's many friction aspects here probably the startup should focus on and pivot to and then help solve. So that the organization see the value in that okay, with this particular framework, with this particular API, I can quickly hook and then kind of it'll reduce my friction in this rest of the process, and then I can pair it up with the LLMs and other agentic systems.
Okay, so I think productionization is a real problem, right? When all the companies face, and I'm sure Vaibhav and Narasimha also was trying to point towards that. I'll give you a couple of examples again, right, from two different industries. Wherein one industry it was a real problem because of the regulations and the sensitivity of that industry to how a product behaves for a customer, versus the other industry which is more around the procurement and stuff. So again, in a fintech industry, there are humans in the loop, and I guess it would continue, right, for a good amount of time. You cannot just get rid of the humans in a regulated industry where there are countrywide regulations keep changing, policies keep changing, right? Now there are a lot of startups that came into play, and I was in fact talking with one of the startups. It's called Bilby.ai. You can look forward, what it does and how it basically understands the regulations and make predictions based on that, right? So there are startups, which have been working in this space as well to counter all these regulations, policy changes. It actually, I think, did something in China, and then it was able to predict a particular thing on children pretty well, right? So in that industry, it is difficult to productionize. It's not the development time, it's primarily, what kind of accuracy you would achieve with the amount of data that you're generating. So, sometimes in an industry like fintech or healthcare, the accuracy plays a very important role. Otherwise, you're bound to lose your customers, you're bound to lose your reputation. So, productionization is an important aspect, and you can only go forward or move forward with it once you feel comfortable that it works pretty well on your customers. So, in Germany also, we did try for especially on the newer customers, right? So there was always a debate of should you try this on the new customers or should you try this on the returning customers, right? You don't want to lose your returning customers. Also, you don't want to lose your new customers because they are coming to your platform for the first time. So there was always this debate, and we decided that okay, let's do a pilot over some of the good customers, right, whose propensity to pay back is higher, and then see how your model is performing or how your agents are able to give you a decision, right? So that is where we kind of introduced for a small cohort, and then saw the results. Of course, the results were indifferent to what we were expecting, but again, that's I think part of the evolution, right? How these things are evolving, and how do you put more data, and how do you train with more data. On the other hand, in a procurement ERP system, the whole idea is that you reduce the speed, or you reduce the time, right, for a supplier to be onboarded in a company's platform, right? That's the goal. Now, there is less sensitivity to you losing a customer or a supplier there. So in that scenario, it was pretty important that this company, which was kind of trying to build the transactional layer and then the tactical layer and then the strategic layer, when we worked with them, right, we told them that why not build everything together and then launch into the system, right, and productionize it faster. And the whole impact of that was that for, say, a company like SAP or Coupa, who are again giants there in the ERP world, it takes almost close to like 6 to 9 months for them to launch a feature or get users trained on the feature, right, the new features that they're launching. Whereas for this company, because they were able to do this effectively, it takes just 14 days for them to launch this new feature and also to train the users, right? And all because of the whole agentic workflow system that they productionized. So I think different industries, the decision depends on a lot of factors.
Or maybe to say that there's no easy answer for that. There's no, it has to be the hard way, like really working to create the unique moat and then for the customers or the organizations.
Any AI founder?
But from a testing perspective, testing is an integral part of everything, right? How do you handle the increasing black box nature of AI, right from machine learning was slightly interpretable, but then came deep learning, then came LLMs, then came agents. With every layer of AI, we're increasing the black box nature. But from client's perspective and government's compliance perspective, responsible AI states that there should be higher transparency. How do you handle that? Because the more black box you get and the client expectations become much higher, you have to grant higher visibility, right? So what kind of testing process you follow to grant visibility to and assurance to your customers?
See, it's an interesting problem space. Couple of thoughts from my side on this. See, I think, and these are my personal thoughts. I'm not sure that in future as well we'll be able to offer transparency of that black box. The moment we have moved past maybe neural networks, things are not that transparent. It is a black box. There is a rationale on why it works, on how you could tune it, but to be able to guarantee transparency in a highly probabilistic scenario may be difficult. And the more we go deeper into this, transparency may not be the thing that we can ensure. What we can ensure is that we can set up certain guardrails, we can set up certain feedback mechanisms, we can have, and there are some good companies which are working on this testing domain as well, that because now in the generative space, the universe is expanded. You could give any prompt, you could get any response. So how do you test for all the different prompts that could exist, for example? So there are some startups and companies which are trying to solve this problem space. It's an interesting problem space, but again, taking the burden of transparency may be too much of a burden. What we can take in is certain guardrails, certain probabilistic assurances that this particular model would work in this way. Maybe some deterministic, and these guardrails could be deterministic in nature rather than probabilistic, but that's possibly the best that one can do, according and personal opinion.
Okay.
So, answering in the context of mainly what text is generated by LLMs and all these agentic systems, we're using a framework of LLM again, which means using a more powerful LLM or a model to rate the responses on various aspects. That's one. I think most of the organizations are taking up that line of thought to have some evaluation framework. Second, bring humans in the loop, not for every conversation or every event where you use a large model for your decisions, but maybe with some sampling to prove that while whatever LLM has generated is in absolute sense accurate, but at least it is directionally correct, right? Then the third element is golden data or golden sources with which we can ground. So, for example, if we're using internal data sets or the APIs to fetch some products and recommend a hotel or some activity, there is another LLM model, let's say large model we use as a jury, multiple ones, and also grounded with the Google search or the web search to see whether that information is factually accurate or not. In fact, that's what even humans today are doing at a really large scale in social media, like in Twitter, asking Grok or Perplexity to verify. So that indicates that grounded LLM based methods are used even by humans to verify whether something is a fact or not in day-to-day life. So I think there is definitely a combination of large models as jury with the golden source grounding and some human in the loop. Combination of it is necessary, and that's what most of the organizations are following or building up.
Yeah, I think that's a real problem that almost every organization is trying to solve, right? Dealing with AI. And both Vaibhav and Nasim actually covered pretty good pointers around what organizations are doing. Other than that, I think I would just like to stress upon the humans in the loop, right? That's pretty important. You cannot just go forward, move forward, build another LLM or build another agent just to validate the output, right? So building the knowledge graphs, how you're building these knowledge graphs become important, because that's where your the transparency can be dealt with, right? You can have probabilistic assurances, right? But you cannot really have that, okay, this is how it is going to work. So building those knowledge graphs, I think, become important, how those are built. And then, of course, humans in the loop. So two things, I guess, would make a lot of sense.
Awesome. That was great. And in the best, you have another follow-up question?
Yeah, I have
If we can just keep it to very short.
Okay, I'll ask.
Perfect. So in the best interest of time, we would wrap up the session here. It was very interesting, and I would love to thank all my panelists and the moderator for having such a nice discussion. And before we break for lunch, I would like to felicitate them with our mementos. Lunch is served on the second floor, and we would again come back at 2:15 for the follow-up sessions. Thank you. Thank you all. We'll break for lunch and we'll come back at 2:15.